right, we're going to go into our next panel, and that's about challenges and opportunities in setting up people analytics operating model. A lot of hard words. And we have with us Steve. Katrin is actually changed to Elin.
We swapped.
Yes, they swapped. And we have with us André. So let's have a fast introduction. They met you already quite a lot. But
anything more to say?
All right. This is Steve.
Yeah, Steve.
You all met him. Elin, you want to present yourself?
Sure. My name is Elin, and I am the second co-founder of a company called People Analytics. So we're great name, right? We're in the right. At the right
You're
space
at the
today.
right spot,
Yes.
definitely. Welcome.
Thank you.
Good, my name is André. I am part of the People Analytics team in the headquarters of Nestlé in Switzerland.
Good. All right. Straight on. I want to ask you, Elin, how do you take HR reporting to the next level?
Well, I guess that depends on where you're at. But I think in HR, we have a tendency of talking a lot about aggregated KPIs. So I think a first step is actually to break down the data, get to know your data, use your data, and start looking for insights, not just reporting on numbers.
All right. All right. And André, do you have anything you want to add to that?
I think it matches our experience because we're at this point in time really. Nestlé is a very operational driven company, as we're a manufacturing company. So reporting is kind of the default go-to, but taking it out of that reporting and turning it into something meaningful is something we're working on, and I'll come back to that in the afternoon in the session as well. But we're getting there, and it's, to your point, is getting insights, what is it trying to tell us, and it's building that capability. You mentioned early business partners, is that vital? We have about 1,400 business partners globally, is try to get these people to do something different with it, as opposed to just hitting the button, get a report, and then say, well, that's it. But what is that? The so what question.
Yeah. And to that, Steve, would you say, how do you educate them? How do you educate then your business partners to actually understand and do what needs to be done?
So that's a huge question.
I know. Please answer it fast.
I think you could spend a whole day just talking about that, but it's multifaceted. But it needs to be coordinated and structured. So it starts from, inviting them to your meetings, inviting yourself to their meetings, spending days and hours working with them alongside them. We've written material, and our own kind of team have written that material to make sure it's not done by a central learning team, but we've written our own kind of data makes a difference courses. We hold annual events where we'll invite HRBPs to a conference similar to this, where we'll bring external speakers, we'll talk about use cases. We have monthly forums where we invite HRBPs to join us and listen to the work in train and how we're doing, and to kind of get a discussion going. That's multifaceted because not every method will work for every HRBP. So if you do a variety of things and do it consistently throughout a year and onwards, then it starts to build. But it's not trying to aim for every single HRBP to be the data scientist of the future. It's just trying to get them to be passionate about workforce analytics, to understand enough to be able to identify the business problems and then bring those business problems back into your team. So
do you all three agree that HR business partners are important to this kind of evolution, or?
I very much agree to that because I think they're the speaking partners out in our organizations. I think we need to feed them with insights. So not requiring, as to your point, them to be data scientists because that's, they have a thousand things on their plate already. But feeding them with insights, feeding them with actions and discussion points and things that they can, that are ready to take out in their organization. I think that's a key.
Why not turn the table? Why not hire data scientists who can become HR business partners? So you learn them, instead of learning them, you learn them how to be HR business partner roles.
I think it's very different competencies.
You think so?
Yes.
Well, I'm trying to challenge you guys a little bit here.
You mentioned it early in the morning, is that in the end, the business partner is the one that sits in the business. They understand. They know what goes on, when is something needed.
Yeah.
And if I look at ourselves, we're right in the process of a global transformation of HR.
Yeah.
And we're trying to turn our business partners around into true co-pilots to the business heads. And that co-piloting suggests that you come up with just more than just a report in the end. So what we're trying to do is really, and I'm going to start later in the year with basically joining, in Switzerland at least, we have a quarterly business partner meeting with all, about 115 business partners in Switzerland, across all the operating companies that we have there, and really sit with them and then following the process timelines of the year. So when we think the timing, when we have people days, then very concrete say, okay, this is now what you can do from an analytics perspective. Prepare yourself. These are the tools that we're going to give you. This is how you use them. And this is how you can turn that into insight. So when you start your people days and your meetings, you can come up with something very concrete. And that's when you start slowly getting co-pilot behavior like we see in finance, for example. Recognizing that the maturity difference is huge, because we have everything from people that are not number savvy at all, from all the way that people that are much more number savvy business partners.
I think the other thing I would add is, yes, I agree, it's a big jump from an HRBP to a data scientist, but there are lots of roles other than a data scientist and a people analytics team. So I talked about translator roles and business partners within analytics, and so we've recruited HRBPs into some of those middle of the team structure, if you like, and vice versa. Some of my team members have gone out to become HRBP, so that's another great way of building that understanding of what analytics can do.
I'm actually a good example of that myself. If I can just look at my own career, I'm actually an SAP consultant.
Yeah.
A former SAP consultant, spent about 15 years in consulting, and last 7.5 years I spent time in talent management, run global talent management for top management, succession planning, all that stuff. And analytics became at some point my hobby, and that has now turned up into my permanent profession. So that also allows me to, when I sit with management, to add a different flavor and different angle to it. So I'm not a data scientist at all.
No.
But when it comes to that...
You're data savvy.
Exactly.
I mean,
I hope so.
You have to at least be data savvy, right?
Absolutely. But it allows you to give the different flavor to the table. But other people on our team are true scientists.
I mean, again, because I see being out there meeting a lot of companies, I see that there is a new breed of HR people coming into that field, which are tech and business or tech savvy and data savvy, and those I think maybe could be really great business partners if you evolve them. Maybe not, a typical data scientist is harder maybe. So, André, I want to. What's the most effective way, do you think, to move ideas to action in an environment when there is limited resources in HR?
I say crowdfunding and go do it. And that's how we kind of operate. We try to, and I work for Jordan Padman, who's the global head of people analytics, and some of you might have seen him in other conferences. And what we really try to do is take these requests and just do it. And if we get a request from a pocket in the organization, see what we can add value, do it, and just start with a small scale project. Build it up, build a dashboard, whatever it is, or any particular analysis that is needed. And the way we're structured in people analytics at Nestlé is that we have hubs all over the world. So we can also, and in the end, all report into my boss. Yeah. So we can also crowdfund. We can get people from different places, or crowdsource, I should say, actually. And because money is everywhere an issue these days, so in Nestlé, tighter budgets, etc. So we got to be creative. And so far that works, but it doesn't always work. Sometimes you end up in failure, but that's fine. The only way to figure out is to go and try. And I think it requires some courage, but it brings great learnings. Yeah. And what I'll show in the afternoon, some of what I show in the afternoon, is also coming from that angle.
Yeah. Interesting.
I think. Sorry, just to build on that. I think you need to be really selective also with the work that you're asked to do, because you're going to get asked to do lots and lots of stuff that other people find intellectually curious, that they just want to know something. But being really robust in terms of only taking on the projects where there is agreement and commitment up front that they are willing to take action off the back of the insight that you then go on to progress will increase your chances of turning that insight into action and impact.
Interesting. And I know, Elin, I was going to say Katrin, but Elin, you work actually with limited HR resources all the time, and when you go into different projects. So what's your tips around the same questions,
So I should also mention then that we're a software company, so we have a platform for HR analysis or HR analytics. And I think, For some companies, starting with an outsourced solution could be definitely one step, an easier step to take than trying to have a team in-house. So that's definitely one, teaming up with someone that can help you show value. And so I think starting out really small, like we've said, I think, showing value, showing potential, and getting the resources as a second step.
All right. So, André, how do we move up the analytical ladder a little bit?
I think you can start building on your answer, actually. So if you look at how we operate in Nestlé, I'm part of the global team.
Yeah.
It's a very small team that sits in the headquarters in Vevey. And then we have those hubs. But what we're also doing, because I think when it comes to moving the needle, is I still face that perception, analytics is about reporting. No, it's not. That's the previous step.
Yeah.
So what we're trying to do is also use, and we have our own internal shared service centers across the world, trying to slowly start scaling those up for certain analytics work, but also make certain things a lot more self-service enabled. So people we have a global reporting catalog, to give an example, where we deploy about 250 reports that basically HRBPs can go in, pick up, run, filter, and do whatever they need to do without a great deal of training. So, and that allows us to free up time to then go more to the more advanced stuff, think predictives, think dashboards, and all that type of stuff, where we then have commitment and where we want to really move the needle. And I think that it's also about, to your point earlier, being very picky about what you do, because what we're now facing is a tremendous pull, is that we want more.
Yeah.
But guess what? There's not more people in our team.
Yeah.
And that's just the way it works. So we have to be very conscious about where do we think we can add most value and be very picky on that.
All right. So can you each one give the audience, because there's been a lot of questions. Some of these questions are coming from you, from the audience. Some real examples of what you have done to really, nail it with the client or within your company. Example, high level, low level, medium level.
I have a very recent example of a very recent study we did with a medical company where managers were very certain that a prior medical background was the way for being successful at their company. So everyone that they took on board had to have a prior experience from life science. And HR was not as certain. So that was our job, to find if we could find a correlation between prior experience from life science and performance. And we could not find that correlation. So I guess HR in this sense was more right in their assumption, which also then makes them, it gives them the possibility to recruit on a much broader scale, which is great, I think.
Yeah, that's a good
example. That's a very...
Yeah, but that was actionable. You just didn't went in and did something to hopefully achieve something yet nobody really knew. It was very tangible.
Yeah, and I think every successful project we've done starts with a great question, a good question, something actionable.
Yeah. Steve?
So
I think you mentioned a few.
Yeah, relatively straightforward one, but we have 12 contact centres across the UK. Customers call in for different servicing requirements. The business problem was that some of these contact centres were experiencing lower levels of customer satisfaction than we wanted, higher overtime costs. And so when we looked at it, we could see that absence in two areas, two contact sites in particular, during the winter months were really high because of people just getting the flu and the cold. So we did some cost-benefit analysis of a flu jab and offering colleagues in those contact centres a flu jab. So we took a pilot approach. We ran it with 2 contact centres, offered it voluntarily to colleagues, got a huge take-up. We brought in a nurse onto the sites to offer it so that it could be done at their convenience rather than needing to book it in with their local GPs. And the year later, we monitored obviously the absence rates, and we saw a significant drop in absence rates as a result of that flu jab. The contact centres that we piloted went from the kind of bottom of the league table up to the top tier. Overtime rates reduced because you're not having to pay other people to cover. and it was there was an economic return on investment in terms of productivity and over time, but actually there was a huge cultural investment because colleagues were saying, this is brilliant. This is a company that really shows that they're caring about our well-being. So really simple, not predictive analytics at all, just some basic combining of people data and non-people data.
Right.
I have a concrete example, and it's something we started, I think it was 2 years ago, where we found in one of our biggest markets, a business leader coming to us saying, we feel that we have in a certain part of the organization a much higher attrition than in another part of the business, and we actually use it as a case to come back to what was mentioned this morning, to try to predict attrition. And we've used that market as a showcase, and what we've done is we've used it sounds a little bit harsh, but we've tried to come up with what we call a survival analysis, which is something that comes out of the pharma industry, where you basically try to say, if a patient takes a certain medication, we're expanding his life expectancy by so many years. And one thing we know, an employee comes, but an employee goes. And when, it's just a question when, and what influences that. And we've come up with a pretty good model to predict that.
Wow.
And that's a model that we today use on a demand basis. So if markets have that feeling, we can use it. And we were able, in this particular case, to put actually a concrete 7-figure number on the table to say this is actually, we've used this. So you were able to actually then say, hey, if certain pockets of people are more at risk for leaving, then what do we do? You can do something about it, because then you can sit with them and look at what the reasons are, and with that we've reduced the cost of attrition in that market.
Right.
That's a very concrete example.
Dig deep into your model, but maybe not on the stage. All right, we got to wrap up. So thank you for sharing. It was really good ideas, good contributing to this day. And are we ready for? Oh, we have 10 minutes more. Oh, Jesus. Any questions? Yeah, please. Do you have the mic? Oh. All right. Anybody who has any question, you can borrow my mic. It's fine. Be bold now. Answer your questions to this lovely panel, because they are experts of things. All right. While you're thinking, I can ask more questions. What was your experience in developing the needed analytical skills within the current HR teams? How do they need to evolve?
You're looking at me.
I'm looking at you, but I'm going to ask please, anybody who wants to share.
If I had an HR team, I think I would, instead of then hiring another person with an HR background, I would definitely go for someone with a data savvy. If I could dream, I would go for a data scientist. I think that would, put HR
step up the ladder. Yeah.
I think there's two bits to it. One is the existing workforce, is upskilling the existing workforce, and I'll always use this joke internally. I still have people in HR that take average of percentages, and with that I rest my case. But the other thing is also hiring people from the outside, and we've actually added analytical skills, a certain particular bit of it, to the competency requirements for business partners. So we've really, when we start hiring now and moving people around, that is really becoming one of the elements that we're looking for. Are you able to do that? Because in the modern world, and we've recently, the recent 2 years ago, had a change in top management, a new CEO, and nobody dares to even get close to that office, I can tell you, without numbers. So it's the company's changing, and so you've no other choice. And it's the same for our group head of HR. She just joined early this year, and it's the exact same story. It's all about numbers. And she doesn't want to see anything coming for HR which is not backed by some form of insight and these type of things. That really helps us also to drive and.
But are there any other skills than business?
I was going to say, I think, absolutely, you're going to need analysts. As you progress as a team and mature, you're going to start wanting to get into predictive and need data scientists. But I would say don't underestimate the importance of bringing in people with strong business understanding, strong commercial acumen, good financial acumen, and combining that with that consultancy skill to be able to engage with business leaders, HR directors, to really tease out what are the business problems. Because analysts just like doing stuff with numbers. And that's great, but it's not going to drive the impact. It's that consultancy into the business, and then the analysts are in a cellar in a dark room somewhere to shove out the work. But
I very much agree with that. I just think that in HR today, there's a lot of HR knowledge. But that knowledge needs to then partner with the analytics side. And I think in most of the companies that I meet with, there's a lack of that analytical skill.
I actually seen recently even programmers coming into HR teams, maybe not full-time, but part-time programmers coming in, working within the HR team, being part of the projects and being part of the HR team. I think that's really seeing that things are happening. But I agree, what's sometimes lacking is a business as well, business acumen, and how do we actually present the data to the board or executive team to make sure that we can take the right decisions about it. So thank you for your participation.